Now you're on live.
Great. Hello. Hello. Hi, Sam. I'm here. Tell me if it's working. Any action? You can't tell. Camera person? You see nothing?
Well, I don't know who's watching that. No, I'm not seeing any. That was.
But it is live? But Sam's not responding?
No, yeah. Sam was watching.
Oh.
I think, well, one person, no, two people are now watching.
Oh. Okay. Hi, everybody. We're going to wait a little bit, let some people filter in, and then start. I don't know who I'm chit-chatting with. Be happy to. Question is when to start. Sam, are you there? Okay, camera person will tell me when it's officially 7. I'll start at like 2 after, maybe?
It's 5 minutes from now.
Oh, holy crap. Okay. Excellent. Okay. All right. You could close up on Polly until it's time. Warming up for me is Talia. Not much of a poet though. No time. Got it. Okay, well, anybody who's there, we're just going to wait a couple more minutes. So that's what we're doing. And then we'll start. This is really cute. This cat is just extremely happy. Okay, well, heck, we're starting. So, this is Susan Lewis. I am extremely pleased to be reading for Poets in Pajamas, which is a wonderful series sponsored by Sundress Publications, Sundress Academy of the Arts. So obviously, thank you so much to everybody at Sundress for everything you do for contemporary literature, and special shout out to Sam Slaughter, who curates this series and is our host somewhere out there. And most importantly, thank you so much to anybody who is tuning in on a very beautiful Sunday evening. I'm so happy that you came. So today I'm here to read from my newest book. It is Heisenberg's Salon, featuring artwork by, the cover art is by Michael Janis, a truly extraordinary glass artist. And this book came out from BlazeVOX Books just in February. And I'm not going to say much, just to say the book is a collection of prose poems which really explore and challenge the distinction between poetry and prose, and perhaps other distinctions as well, other boundaries that it's interested in troubling, self, other, human, non-human, etc. And it's built on an extremely loose layperson's musings and analogous thinking between quantum indeterminacy and various kinds of fluidities and multiplicities of existence. So I'll read. I'm going to read for something shy of 15 minutes because I talked a bit. And then after that, I'm open to comments, questions, anything anyone wants to throw at me. Okay. Indeterminacy. It was time for something, although she could not for the life of her imagine what. So she assumed her post on the stoop and waited for the future to declare itself. A tattered bird of dubious provenance landed on the banister and inspected her with his ancient gaze. She exhaled with emphasis, but otherwise managed to keep her preconceptions to herself. The old fellow cocked his head and screeched. Terrific, she said. How am I supposed to know if you're the one I'm waiting for? Terrific, he squawked. How am I supposed to know if you're the one I'm waiting for? I get it, she said, bravely extending her arm. I get it, he echoed, latching on with admirable decision. It was the last conversation they ever had. The laws of succession. Although she tried not to look over her shoulder, there were footsteps. That plus claw prints worthy of a giant canary or anything freakish but benign. Soon her friends grew webs between their toes. She found herself nodding off. Even moths took comfort in her ample shadow, sated in their mindless hunger. She could build a tower and launch it at the drop of a hat. She could spark phase change before its time. One day another god arrived, gifting her with rare and racy delights. The surfeit of pleasure compromised her concentration, making room for lesser beings to loosen up and shine. A variable equation. This one had a weeping cat. In fact, he was a cat himself when the notion struck him. He could leap from pool to pool like raindrops. When the pair of them cried, the earth beneath them shuddered from pleasure or impatience. One day the cat's tears dried up. It lay still until becoming something else. Its man never found out who had ordered the new body, but he knew then and there he must get one like it. You could say he lorded it over his pet, but it was the cat, become moonbeam, which nurtured him before he had a self to speak of. Although she preferred to be ridden bareback, he was nostalgic for their first saddle. She struggled not to buck, although its chafe on her latest shape flecked her temper with pebbles of edge. By this time, flight was all but impossible. No doubt he was less than proud of his own attenuation, like the thinning of his magnificent tail, which had once draped their privacy so lavishly. A pall of sorrow shadowed their path, including the synchronized dive they hoped to master, with only their shared straw and his mouthful of beating hearts. There was nothing for it but to hold her breath and recall the first time she had softened to the heat of his attention through the firm but supple virgin leather. After so many years. After so many years, it was time for a change. She took the initiative, offering him a nibble of her ear in exchange for one of his. After a brief healing period, he offered her a nascent armadillo. She fashioned chairs from naked dancers as beautiful as they were disciplined. He wrote a book on liquid pages. Although the lovers' boredom had by this time vanished, they persevered. She installed plaster casts of his damage in the stodgiest of neighborhoods. Most popular was his notched ear. He taught her how to use ingredients dreamt in an invented language. She fed him the idea of armadillo from the hollow of the gentlest dancer's back. He engineered a silken tunnel through the thorniest of doubts to the wellspring of desire. Eventually she enticed him with daunting rewards and irresistible punishments to bypass their ponderous heritage and storm the edge of repetition to launch the living map of their evolving courage. Family man. Made of sand, he felt himself crumble faster than the rest of us, whose favorite flavor is denial. He made an effort to avoid water and wind, but as he was wont to say in his abrasive voice, what was the point of living if you couldn't live? Still he listened to his wife's entreaties and stayed faithful to his sheltered life until an epic heat wave pushed him over the edge, both literally and figuratively. I'm sorry, I had to know what it felt like, he shouted up to her as he plunged. And the truth was, he could barely wait for that first and final excess. One day, the girl gave up eyeing the woods beyond her deck to step off. With this change in perspective came a broader view of her own existence. The sheer expanse of her new horizon dwarfed the kinesis of all that had once oppressed her. Surrounded by the obscure chatter of creatures, avian and entomological, she became increasingly remote from her species and its previously pressing concerns. In time, her leafy carpet morphed from a cool green mosaic to a tapestry of flame. Her winged neighbors fluttered off. The monotony of such radical serenity was draining her vitality. But try as she might, she could no more penetrate the shimmering fundament of her new reality than she could have once imagined living in this state of beauteous and desolate calm, until the first hard frost brought the leaves to the rocks below, and with them her infelicitous bulk. Just a couple of more. The young man. The young man had big blue eyes which gave off a clear and trustworthy light. Everyone who met him confided in him. He alone harbored the sneaking suspicion that he was lying. Not that he intended to deceive. It was as if he had been hijacked by some vaguely malevolent force. But was this elusive force actually making him lie, or simply poisoning his self-assessment? The young man could not be sure. Then, one day, another young man appeared at his door. It was his long-lost twin. The boys had been separated at birth, but his brother had never abandoned the search for his missing sibling, or so he said. He also had big blue eyes, which gave off a clear, trustworthy light, arousing the young man's gravest doubts. One day, grass started growing from the young man's chest. "Everybody changes," said his mother, surreptitiously dabbing at her eyes. But the boy, who was wise beyond his years, felt delicate roots tickling his sternum and knew it was a matter of time before they'd probe his lungs and entwine his heart, crowding the space it needed to expand and contract in its steadfast commitment to preserving his options. As the weeks passed, graceful green strands sprung from his armpits, between his legs, and even in the finest possible wisps from his upper lip. One morning he awoke from a luxurious dream of water glossing boulders as smooth and warm as flesh, to find a starry sprinkle of yellow blossoms adorning his burgeoning tufts. He had only to be still, and tiger swallowtails floated around him, sipping his nectar. Unable to deny the inexorable slowing of his breath, he was content to observe himself contemplate the ramifications of his personal evolution, without emitting a watt of excess heat or other sign of agitation. Two more. Homunculus. Somewhere in the artist's hollows spins a spider, dreaming of vermilion blossoms, succulent as flies, and sunshine the color of salmon. The creature's yearnings power the man's restless blood, fed by the hope that somewhere another golden shoulder flexes, powered by another mysterious muse. The dream seeds a vision of steel webs towering above the swarm, and others flung impossibly across great, glinting, watery traps. Yet the spider is his own best secret, despite an old cat, the color of chocolate, who purrs and nuzzles the artist's arm, sensing something tantalizing and forever out of reach. The following message. She's seen so much, she can't remember what she's seen. Following her, keeping pace like an attentive pet, a balloon bobbing on the breeze, full of float, yet weighted by a slim paper scroll. The old woman moves slowly, dragging the long and heavy chain of selves who have lived her life and left her. She is both forgetful and weighted by what she's done, like a snake swallowing itself, squeezing the air from its lungs, cracking its own bones. Perhaps the balloon's message will reveal where this will end, or what is worth remembering, unless what it has to say is not for her at all, but another, equally improbable recipient. And that was my poems. I'm not going to read you more. I hope you enjoyed them. I hope you were interested in checking out my book, supporting small presses like BlazeVOX. Here it is, and I'm totally open to anything anyone wants to say or ask. And thank you so much for listening. And while I'm hanging out waiting to see if anyone asks, thank you to my camera person and life partner, David. but he didn't leave like the cat. He walked out. No comments? No questions? It is really funny not to have any idea who one is talking to. Well, so just to make sure before I end this feed, Sam, are you there? Could you hear me? I might message him. So don't end, I'm not going to end this feed. I'm just going to make sure that my host is happy with me.